Welcome to As a Crow Flies Hiking. Got a little bit different episode for you guys today. I'm going to get an expert to show us how to properly set up a hammock. This is Barry. Barry, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and your connection with Walhalla Hammocks Outdoors?
Okay. Barry Garibaldi is my name. Trail name is Cajun. I am a rep in the hammock industry. I rep 10 different companies, one of which is Walhalla Hammocks Outdoors. I've been doing this since 2016 now.
2016?
Yeah, been full-time in a hammock at home since 2012.
Full-time in a hammock at home?
Yes, sleep in a hammock every night. I've got a hammock stand right over there that whenever I have to stay in a hotel for work, move the bed out the way, put the stand in there, and I sleep on the hammock.
Nice.
Yeah.
You told me you would show me how to properly set up a hammock, including something called an anaconda, which you're going to talk about here in a second, right?
Yeah. The anaconda is the long tube that everything was in. And when I say everything in, that is the underquilt, the hammock, my top quilt.
Nice.
This is a setup to get me down to about 30 degrees or so. The same anaconda will fit my 20-degree top quilt, which will actually get me down to about -15.
All right, I'm going to get Barry to break this all down and set it back up, and then we'll get into it. All right, Barry, take us through the setup of how you did this hammock.
Okay, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to check to make sure you have proper trees. You want to make sure the size is good. If you can touch going around the tree, that tree is too small for you. General rule of thumb, 6-inch diameter for about a 180-pound person, okay? Adjust for your size of your hands or your weight. You just want to make sure that the trees are not going to move whenever you're doing this. Next, you're going to make sure they're approximate distance apart. I haven't officially measured it. I just know 14 to 16 feet is me taking a certain number of steps. So it's and 1 and 2 and when I do that, it's perfect. Then you're going to put your straps up. Most people, whenever they first start, they put their straps like this and it chokes the tree. That damages the tree. And it's also really hard on your straps. The proper way to do it is your strap goes around the back of the tree and then you hook on here, or if you got the loop ones, you pass it through the loop. Your straps are going to be approximately head height. To be able to get your hammock high enough off the ground, you want your hammock at approximately sit height. The angle that you want from your tree to your hammock suspension is a 30-degree angle. Here to here, going straight across, is approximately a 30-degree angle. So you want your tree is your thumb, the ground is your forefinger. And it's just like that, you're just pointing. You do the same thing on the other side. The last check that you're going to do on the angle and the distance, you put weight in the hammock and your ridge line, you should be able to just barely twist it. If it's guitar string tight, it's too tight and you're being very hard on the suspension and the fabric in the hammock. If it's too loose, it's not going to be quite as comfortable. Everybody is a slight bit different, so some people like it a little tighter, a little looser, but that's how I do mine.
All right, Barry, now I want you to talk a little bit about your sleep system, the underquilt, the quilt, all that in relation to hammock camping.
Most tent campers use a sleeping bag. We don't use sleeping bags in a hammock because it doesn't work as well. Number one, it's hard to get in the hammock in a sleeping bag. Number two, when you lay in a sleeping bag, it compresses the insulation and it doesn't do its job anymore. So basically what you're looking at is an underquilt, and inside the hammock is a top quilt. I'll show you that in a second. Picture in your head taking a sleeping bag and just cutting it this way. The bottom half of the sleeping bag goes on the outside of the hammock. That way you're not smushing it whenever you get in the hammock. The top side of it goes on top of you to keep you warm. Your underquilt is more important for your temperature than your top quilt is. I use a 0 or a 20 year-round, and I just change my top quilts depending on temperature. Right now I have a 40-degree top quilt that I'm using because it's ungodly hot right here right now. The underquilt, whenever you get in, will seal around you and hold your heat in, just like a sleeping bag does. If it's really, really hot and you're starting to sweat too much, you can hang the underquilt a little loose and get some air travel in here to cool you off. When it gets cold, you have it tucked up against you. And then top quilt, everybody's a little different on this. Some people like a foot box, some people just throw it on top of them like a blanket. Some people use a pillow, some people don't. I actually use a pillow to take this and force it away from my face while I'm sleeping. Another thing that you can do when you're in a hammock, if you get really, really hot, but you know it's going to get cold later in the night, you can just move your underquilt out from under you, and then when it gets cold, you slide it back under you to keep the heat in. So most people, when they lay in a hammock, they think that you have to lay straight in between the two trees. If you do that, you're kind of shaped like a banana and it gets really uncomfortable. Most people do not like to lay in a hammock that way. If you want to get nice and flat, what you do is you get diagonal inside of the hammock and it flattens out a lot. I can sleep on my side like this. I can even roll over into my stomach like this, which is a little hard to do while I'm trying to talk to the camera. But sleeping on your stomach is no big deal. Different hammock cuts will be flatter depending on the brand and the fabric that you use. This one I could make do sleeping on my stomach. There are some that I just naturally roll over into my stomach. But the main thing is the laying diagonal gets you nice and flat. Generally, whenever you're camping, no matter what the weather is, you want to put your tarp up first for just in case the weather gets bad. You can continue to set up your hammock and nothing gets wet. When you're putting your tarp up, the weather, as in rain or snow or anything like that, wind and temperature all play a factor in how you set it up. If it's hot with not a lot of air movement like it is right now, you want your tarp kind of high up off of you, and you're going to spread it out as much as you can to get as much airflow as possible. If bad weather's coming, you want your tarp down and in tight to keep you out of the weather for the weekend. So this is the same tarp setup in storm mode, bad weather, cold weather, whatever. You've got doors that close on it to keep the heat in, keep the weather out. Pretty much you can get it to completely seal. I was just trying to do this quick. Sideways, rain, doesn't matter, you're still not going to get wet. So now we're going to set up in porch mode, which gives you more airflow and a better view. And it's not really complicated. It is literally setting it up like a little porch. This way, when you're in your hammock, you get a better view. You also get more airflow in there to keep you cool.
All right, Barry, there's 3 knots, or somewhat, there's many knots in the hammock game, but there's 3 main knots you can do for the tarp and for the hammock. So can you show us the main ones that you can do for each, the tarp, the hammock, and then the pullouts?
Sure. Okay, so first one we're going to do is the hammock. This one is called a Beckett hitch. So I'm going to undo the hammock and then show you from the beginning. All right, so after you put your strap around the tree, you take your continuous loop on your hammock. You're going to pass your strap through it. Just pull it all the way through. You tighten it up to where it needs to be. I just pinch it closed right there to hold it in place. Then all you're doing here is making a slippery half hitch, going around and through. And when it's done, your knot will be below your continuous loop. And that's it. That's not going anywhere. And to undo it, literally it's that simple. It's not a complex thing. Don't let the knots scare you away from coming do this. On the tarp, I have my guy line. I go around the tree with it. This is the part that goes to the tarp to the tree. You wrap it back around. And all that is a point for you to actually tighten it. Again, pinch and a slippery half hitch. And that's it. That's not going anywhere. We're going to show you a taut line hitch. I usually leave them tied up. You just put your tarp up, you just hook it on your stake. You're going to come back and you're going to wrap. I usually do 3 just because it holds better in a strong wind. You got 3 loops around the line that goes from your stake to your tarp. The tail end of it is here. And then another slippery half hitch right there. and it is an adjustable knot. You can tighten it, you can loosen it.
Well, Barry, thank you so much for that demonstration and all the great information that people out there for my channel that mostly do tent camping can see just how easy it is to get into hammock camping. That made it very simple with the knots and the setup. Anything else you want to tell us about hammock camping?
Well, if you want to learn more about hammock camping, there are some videos that are accurate on YouTube. You can watch Shug's videos for that also. I have some on my website, which is Cajun-Outdoors.com. If you have any questions, you can PM me on that. A lot of people contact me through Facebook Marketplace. Best thing to do if you want to learn about hammock camping is to come to a group hang. You're going to have a bunch of people wanting you to lay in their setup to try out the hammock. That's the best way to find out the correct hammock length, width, cut, and material that fits you to make you comfortable. There are hammock events all over the country. There's actually hammock events all over the world. You can go to hammockforums.net. There's a calendar on there, and there's a couple of other calendars around. I have one actually on my Facebook page and on my website also.
I tell you what, Barry, I appreciate it very much. This is my first hammock hang, and let me just tell you, I second the invitation to go to a hammock hang because the people here have been wonderful, just very giving of their information and knowledge. And though I'm not a hammock camper yet, I feel like I have the buzz for it now.
Oh yeah, you're gonna sleep in one tonight and you're gonna be very comfortable because it's a real camping hammock, not a little one.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
All right, check out his channel and his website. Appreciate y'all for watching this episode of As the Crow Flies Hiking, and I'll see you on the next adventure.